The house was quiet. Too quiet. Not the usual peace that settled in after the kids were finally asleep. The kind you almost craved after a long day of their noise and energy. No, this was a different quiet. It felt hollow, stretched thin, like the space between me and Clara had somehow expanded into every corner of the living room, pushing out even the ambient hum of the refrigerator. I was sitting there on the old armchair, the one with the worn armrests she always nagged me to fix, just staring at the flickering blue light of the modem. Midnight, or maybe a little past. She'd been in bed for hours. It hit me then, not like a sudden shock, more like a slow, creeping realization that had been building for weeks, maybe months. She hadn't reminded me to take out the recycling today, or yesterday, to call my mom about her appointment, or the day before about the loose doorknob on Leo's room that was driving her crazy. It wasn't just a few things, it was everything. She'd just stopped. All those little everyday prompts, the ones I used to half joke about, saying she was my personal assistant, my human to-do list, they were gone. Completely. And I hadn't even truly noticed until now, sitting in this heavy silence. I'm Owen, by the way, 39. Clara, my wife, she's 38. We've been together for 15 years, married for 12 and have 2 kids, Leo who's 8 and Lily 6. Our life on the surface looked pretty normal, you know. Suburban house, 2 cars, bills, school plays, weekend errands. I work in logistics. Pretty steady gig, always have. Clara's a teacher, 2nd grade. Loves her job, mostly. We built all this together, or at least I thought we did. But lately that sense of partnership, it felt fractured. Like a vase that's still holding water, but has hairline cracks, spiderwebbing all over it. Invisible until the light catches them just right. The silence wasn't just about the reminders. It was about the lack of her voice in my ear, the absence of her presence in those small, connective tissues of daily life. I missed her gentle exasperation, even. The truth was, a part of me relied on those little nudges. I guess I took them for granted. I definitely took them for granted. And now that they were gone, the weight of everything I was suddenly responsible for remembering, not just for myself, but for our shared life, it felt crushing. More than that, it felt like something significant had died between us, something fundamental that held us together. And I was just now in this quiet, empty house, staring at a modem, starting to understand how much trouble we were actually in. Not just a rough patch. This felt deeper, much deeper. And the chilling part was, I had absolutely no idea why it had come to this, or how to even begin to fix it. It's funny that you spend all this time building a life with someone, brick by brick, and then one day you look up and realize some of those bricks were just painted on. Or maybe you just never really saw the mortar crumbling, just assumed everything was solid. That night, sitting in the dark, that was the first time I really understood how much I'd just assumed. Clara and I met back in October of 2008. I was 24, she was 23. It was at a house party, actually, over at our mutual friend Brenda's place in Northfield. A pretty standard Friday night. Everyone was just out of college, trying to figure out what was next. I remember Clara standing by the kitchen island, laughing at something someone had said. Her hair, it was this deep auburn back then, kind of messy, catching the light from the overhead fixture in a way that just stuck with me. She had this energy, like she was truly present, not just watching things happen. I was usually the guy propping up a wall, observing, so she was just instantly different to me. I somehow managed to actually talk to her that night, which was a minor miracle for my younger, shyer self. We clicked over some obscure indie band we both loved, and I remember thinking, wow, she actually gets it. Not just about the music, but about a lot of things. We ended up at this little coffee shop, The Daily Grind, down on Main Street the next Saturday. We talked for hours, just easy, you know? She was so passionate about teaching, even then. Doing her student teaching at Liberty Elementary, already full of ideas about how she wanted to change things for those kids. And me, I was just starting out in logistics, still pretty uncertain about where that path would lead. But with her, it felt like maybe I wouldn't be figuring it all out alone. We moved in together about a year and a half later into a small apartment just outside of town. The early years were, I don't know, exciting. We were figuring out cohabitation, splitting rent, buying furniture from thrift stores, and trying to assemble it. We got engaged on a camping trip up near Lake Superior a couple of years after that, freezing our butts off, but she still said yes. Married a year later, a small ceremony with just family and close friends. We felt like we were building an empire, just the two of us conquering adulthood. When Leo arrived, and then Lily 2 years later, it felt like the natural, wonderful expansion of that empire. The reminder dynamic, and that's what I called it in my head, started subtly. It began pretty soon after we moved in, I guess. Hey, did you remember to grab that dry cleaning, Owen? Or, don't forget we're meeting my parents for dinner on Saturday. Harmless, right? Helpful, even. I'd joke about it. What would I do without you, my walking calendar? She'd just roll her eyes, a smile playing on her lips, and usually just say, you'd probably forget your head if it wasn't attached. It became a thing. Her, the meticulous planner, me, the slightly scattered one who needed a nudge. I saw it as a good balance, a kind of unspoken division of labor. She handled the mental load of remembering all the little gears that kept our lives turning, and I just kept the big picture stuff in mind, like keeping my job and paying the mortgage. But looking back, there were moments, little cracks that I completely missed or willfully ignored. Clara's occasional exasperation, for instance. I remember one time, maybe 5 years ago, she was trying to coordinate some big family vacation. Both our families, like a dozen people. She was juggling flights, rental cars, everyone's dietary restrictions for this cabin we'd rented up in Michigan. She was visibly stressed, snapping at the kids more than usual. I remember her saying, her voice tight, sometimes it feels like I'm the only one actually thinking about all this stuff, Owen. Like no one else even considers what needs to happen for us all to just go. And I patted her arm. Said something dumb like, you're just so good at it, babe. We'd be lost without you. I honestly thought I was being supportive. Now I just hear how much of a cop-out that was, how dismissive. Another time, our old car broke down. And it was a whole thing. She was on the phone with the mechanic, then the insurance, trying to figure out a rental, all while still teaching her class remotely during COVID. I was on a call for work, and I remember just letting her handle it, thinking, she's so capable, she'll get it done. When she finally hung up, she just looked at me, really looked, and said, Owen, do you ever feel like you're doing everything? I laughed it off, told her she was a superhero. She didn't laugh back. That should have been a screaming siren. But I think I just thought she was tired. I thought we were a team. I thought she liked being the one who had it all together. I thought wrong. Things didn't just fall apart overnight, of course. It was a gradual erosion, like rust eating away at something important. After those little moments I mentioned, the ones I brushed off, the reminder system just became our normal. I didn't question it. She didn't stop doing it. I guess I just saw it as part of her personality, organized, thoughtful, on top of things. And I liked that. It meant I didn't have to be. The first incident, the one that really sticks out in my mind now, happened about a year and a half ago. Leo was having a really rough time in school with some bullies. Clara was obviously upset about it, spent hours on the phone with his teacher, Mrs. Albright, and the school counselor, Mrs. Jensen. She was trying to schedule a meeting, get the kids separated in class, figure out how to help him. I was aware of it, of course, but I was also swamped at work. New project, tight deadlines, pretty intense. She asked me, probably 5 or 6 times, Owen, can you just call Mr. Henderson, the principal, and tell him we want to be part of the solution here? Just let him know we're expecting a meeting soon. Each time, I'd say, yeah, absolutely, I'll get on it. And then my phone would ring, or an email would ping, and I'd just forget. It wasn't malicious, not at all. It was just an overflow in my own brain. Finally, after a week, she came home looking absolutely drained. She walked into the kitchen, dropped her bag on the counter with a thud. "Owen, did you call, mister?" "Henderson?" she asked, her voice low but sharp, like a knife scraping a plate. I froze. "Oh, damn it, Clara. I totally meant to. Work's been just insane. I'll do it first thing tomorrow, I promise." She didn't explode. She just looked at me, her eyes flat, devoid of any warmth. "You know, Owen," she said so quietly it almost scared me, "I just needed you to make one phone call. One? To show Leo that his dad was fighting for him, to show me that you're fighting for us, and you couldn't even do that." She grabbed a plate from the cupboard, her hand shaking slightly, and started making dinner. I tried to apologize, to explain, but she just shut me down with a wave of her hand. "Just don't. Please. Just don't." That silence lasted for days. It was like a physical barrier between us. I hated it. It made me feel guilty, but also a little resentful. I was working hard, too. Why did she have to make such a big deal out of one missed phone call? My rationalization, I realize now, was utterly pathetic. Then came the money thing. It was a slow creep, too. Nothing dramatic. Our joint account, which Clara usually managed, started getting a bit tight. Not dangerously, but enough that she'd mention it. "Hey, Owen, we need to be a little more careful with the groceries this month, okay? Just try to stick to the list. Or, can you hold off on ordering those new tools for your garage project for a bit? The kids need new shoes, and Lily just grew out of her winter coat." I'd agree, of course. "Yeah, sure, no problem." But then I'd see a good deal on something, or I'd get takeout on the way home because I was too tired to cook, and I wouldn't really think about the overall picture. One evening about 8 months ago, we were sitting on the couch after the kids were asleep. She had her laptop open, looking at the bank statement. Her brow was furrowed. "Owen, did you really need that new fishing reel? I thought we talked about cutting back." I felt my face flush. "It was on sale, Clara." "A really good deal, and I haven't bought anything for myself in ages." She just sighed, a long, weary sound. "It's not about buying things for yourself, Owen. It's about the fact that I'm the only one here watching the numbers, trying to make sure we don't overdraw. It's about balance, and it feels like I'm constantly fighting an uphill battle, trying to keep us afloat, while you just don't seem to care." I felt attacked. "That's not fair!" "I work my ass off for this family. You think I don't care?" We went back and forth, a low-volume argument, both of us tired. I ended up stomping off to bed, feeling misunderstood. She stayed on the couch, laptop still open. My buddy, Dave, who I've known since college, he even noticed something was off. We were having beers at O'Malley's maybe 6 months ago. I was complaining about Clara being moody lately, how she seemed to pick fights over little things. Man, she just doesn't get it. I'm doing my best. Dave just nursed his beer, looked at me over the rim. "Owen, you sure you're doing your best for her, or just your version of best? Clara's always been the one holding things together for you, man. Remember that time in college, just when you lost your wallet right before that big trip? Who found it and bought your bus ticket with her own money?" He had a point. Clara was always the dependable one, but I just shrugged it off. "Yeah, well, we're grown-ups now. Different ball game." I didn't want to hear it. It was easier to blame her mood than look at my own behavior. The last big incident before the total silence was maybe 4 months ago. It involved Lily's birthday party. Clara had meticulously planned everything, as usual. Decorations, cake, guest list, the whole 9 yards. All I had to do was pick up the balloons and the themed paper plates from Party City on Saturday morning, an hour before the party started. She'd written it on the whiteboard in the kitchen, texted me a reminder Friday night, even left a note on the fridge. Saturday morning, I woke up, had my coffee, started scrolling on my phone, got distracted, reading some article, looked up, and it was 10:30 a.m. The party started at 11 a.m. The store was a good 20 minutes away. My stomach dropped. I jumped up, grabbed my keys, flew out the door, made it there, grabbed everything in a panic, paid, sped back. I pulled into the driveway just as the first guests were arriving. Clara was already outside, welcoming them, a strained smile on her face. As I got out of the car, juggling the balloons and bags, she walked over to me. Her smile vanished. "Owen, where have you been?" Her voice was flat, devoid of any anger, just exhaustion. "I'm so sorry, babe. I just lost track of time." Seriously, I got it all, though. See? I gestured to the balloons, trying to sound cheerful. She just stared at the balloons for a second, then looked me in the eye. "It's not about the balloons, Owen. It's about me having to pick up your slack constantly, every single time. It's about me carrying the entire weight of our life, and you just floating along, assuming someone else will catch what you drop." She walked away then, back to the guests, resuming her hostess persona. That was it. No yelling, no big fight. Just that quiet, crushing statement. And I stood there, watching her, feeling a familiar wave of guilt mixed with that stubborn little voice in my head saying, "She's overreacting. It's just balloons." But even that voice sounded weaker than usual. The silence that followed her statement was heavy, like something had just snapped. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, definitive click. And I didn't hear her remind me about anything after that day. Not once. The silence, like I said before, had been building. It wasn't just the lack of reminders, it was the lack of everything. No more casual touches, no more shared laughs over the kids' antics. No more, "How was your day?" That actually felt like a question. We were roommates, parents, coexisting in the same house, but completely separate. It was killing me. Slowly. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words, with all the things I was too cowardly to address. Then, about 2 weeks after I first fully registered the total absence of her voice in my ear, the real moment hit. It was a Tuesday evening, around 6 p.m. I just walked in from work. The smell of something incredible was wafting from the kitchen. Clara was making her famous chicken pot pie, a dish she only made when she was feeling particularly generous, or when someone needed cheering up. I figured maybe, just maybe, this was a sign things were thawing. Leo and Lily were at the kitchen table, drawing, chattering about their day. Clara was stirring a big pot on the stove, her back to me. The TV in the living room was quietly playing some cartoon. It was normal. Almost. I walked over to the counter, tossed my keys into the bowl. "Smells amazing, babe," I said, trying to inject some warmth into my voice, maybe a little too much, making it sound fake even to my own ears. She didn't turn around. Just a hum, a non-committal sound. My stomach tightened. I went to the fridge to grab a beer, trying to act casual. As I pulled open the door, my eyes fell on the magnetic calendar, the big dry erase one we used for everyone's schedules. Usually, it was packed with Clara's neat handwriting. Leo dentist, 3 p.m., Lily playdate, Owen haircut. It was always a visual representation of her managing our lives. But this time, my name was almost completely absent. There was Leo soccer practice, Lily art class, Clara PT apt. But for my own appointments, my work meetings, even the stuff I'd mentioned to her in passing, there was nothing. It was like I'd been erased from the family schedule. My hand trembled slightly, and the beer bottle clinked against the shelf. It wasn't just the calendar. Below it, clipped to the fridge, was a small, neat list. To do on Clara. And it was filled with things related to the kids, to the house, to her own life. And then a separate, much shorter list. Owen, take out trash, walk dog, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That was it. My specific responsibilities laid out like for a child. A cold wave washed over me. This wasn't just silence. This was deliberate. This was a declaration. I shut the fridge door, maybe a little too hard. Clara finally turned, a spatula in her hand. Her expression was neutral, but I could see a flicker in her eyes, like she knew exactly what I'd seen. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice even. Yeah, fine. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. Hey, the calendar and that list. My voice sounded small. What about them? She asked, turning back to the stove, stirring again. The clinking of the spatula against the ceramic pot was the only sound for a few seconds. The kids were oblivious, still absorbed in their drawings. It's different, I managed. My stuff, it's not on there. She stopped stirring. Her shoulders, usually so relaxed, seemed to stiffen. She took a deep breath. No, she said, still not looking at me. It's not. I stopped putting it on there. My heart started pounding against my ribs. Why? I knew why. I just couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe she'd actually done it. She finally turned around, leaning against the counter, spatula still in hand. Her gaze was direct, unwavering, and utterly exhausted. Because, Owen, she said, her voice barely a whisper, I am tired. So tired of being your unpaid executive assistant. I am tired of being the only one who remembers everything, who plans everything, who carries the mental load for this entire household. For 15 years, I have been your alarm clock, your calendar, your reminder service, your financial planner, your social secretary, your event coordinator. She paused, took another shaky breath. And I'm done. I can't do it anymore. The words hung in the air, heavy, suffocating. My mind raced, trying to find an escape, a rebuttal. But I work. I provide. I do my part. But the words felt hollow, even in my head. I looked at her, at the dark circles under her eyes, the way her shoulders slumped, even when she was trying to stand tall. I saw the years of quiet resentment, the ignored pleas, the burden I'd so willingly let her carry. Clara, My voice trailed off. What could I say? I'm sorry. It felt too small, too late. I didn't realize? That was a lie. I had realized in moments, and then pushed it away. The kids' chatter about a purple dinosaur felt like an alien sound, completely out of place in the sudden, shattering intimacy of this conversation. I could hear the faint buzz of the refrigerator, the distant rumble of a car passing outside. The chicken pot pie was still smelling incredible, but it suddenly felt like a cruel joke. I need you to understand, Owen, she continued, her voice gaining a little strength. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't me trying to get you to help more. This is me telling you that I am removing myself from this role completely. From now on, your life, your responsibilities, your appointments, they are yours. And mine are mine. And if things don't get done for you, then they just don't get done. She dropped the spatula into the sink with a soft clatter, a final sound that punctuated her words. I just stood there, speechless, numb. My chest felt hollowed out. I could feel the blood draining from my face. This wasn't about chores. This wasn't about forgetting a phone call. This was about the absolute core of our partnership, our entire life together. And she had just dismantled it, piece by quiet piece, right in front of me. All because I hadn't seen what was happening, hadn't listened, hadn't cared enough to lift the weight she was collapsing under. The worst part was, I knew she was right. And the truth of that realization was a punch to the gut. What had I done? What had I done to us? The immediate aftermath of Clara's declaration was chaotic, not in a shouting, throwing things kind of way, but in a silent, unraveling sort of chaos. That night, after the kids were asleep, she went to the guest room. She didn't come back. That was the first practical consequence. A broken home, physically as well as emotionally. The next morning was a disaster. I overslept because, guess what? I'd relied on her gentle nudge or the smell of her coffee. The kids almost missed the bus. I scrambled, making them cereal, trying to find their backpacks, which were in their usual spot. But my brain was just fried. I got to work late, feeling like I'd already run a marathon. It was a stark, brutal introduction to the reality of having to manage my own damn life. Financially, things got messy fast. Clara had always handled the bills, knowing exactly when everything was due, managing the budget down to the last penny. I'd just transfer my paycheck and mostly ignore the rest. Now I found myself staring at overdue notices. Electric bill, internet bill, a late fee for the mortgage, small things that quickly added up. I had to call companies, grovel, set up payment plans. It was humiliating. I felt like a teenager who'd just moved out, completely out of my depth. I realized how much I'd outsourced not just the remembering, but the thinking about our finances. The kids, Leo and Lily, they definitely felt it. Not the details, of course, but the shift in the air. Clara and I were civil but distant. No more family dinners at the big table, no more easy banter. She'd cook, I'd cook, sometimes separately. Sometimes we'd just order takeout. Leo started acting out at school again, and Lily got clingier, asking Clara, "Mommy, why isn't Daddy sleeping in your room anymore?" It broke my heart every time. Clara would just say, "Daddy and Mommy are just figuring some things out right now, sweetie." I felt like a monster for putting them through this, but I also didn't know how to fix it. I tried to talk to her. "Clara, please, I get it. I was an idiot. A selfish, blind idiot. But please, can we just talk about this? Can we try?" She'd look at me, her eyes tired. "Owen, there's nothing to talk about right now. I told you, I need you to do. Not talk, not promise. Just do." She was holding a line, and she wasn't budging. It was infuriating, but also, in a twisted way, admirable. She was serious. My parents, especially my mom, Eleanor, were heartbroken. When I finally confessed to her that Clara had moved into the guest room, she was devastated. "Owen, what have you done?" "Clara is a gem. You need to fight for her." My dad, Arthur, was more pragmatic. "Son, you took her for granted, plain and simple. You reap what you sow." Even Dave, my friend, when I finally opened up to him, just shook his head. "Told you, man." She carries too much. No one was on my side, not really. And they shouldn't have been. I tried. Oh God, I tried. I set alarms on my phone for everything. Take out trash. Call Mrs. Henderson about Leo. Pay electric bill. I bought a planner, a physical one, and tried to organize my life. It was so hard. Things still fell through the cracks. I missed Lily's parent-teacher conference. I forgot to put gas in the car and almost ran out on the highway. Each mistake was a fresh stab of shame. But I kept at it. I had to. Clara wasn't reminding me. No one was. And the kids, they needed me to step up. Then, about a month into this new, desolate normal, a new discovery surfaced. I was trying to find an old tax document in her office, looking through a drawer she usually kept locked. It wasn't locked. Inside, I found a manila envelope, no label, just thick, heavy paper. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a consultation agreement with a divorce attorney, a local one, Jessica Vance, dated 3 months prior. Not just a contemplation, but an actual step. She hadn't just stopped reminding me. She had started making plans. Without me even knowing, the ground just fell out from under me completely. It was real. This wasn't just a tough patch. This was the end. It's been almost 5 months since I found that envelope. Almost 6 since Clara moved into the guest room. She hasn't filed anything yet, not officially, but the consultation, the fact that she went that far without a word to me, it's a constant cold presence in my mind. We're still in the house, navigating this strange, tense co-parenting existence. We talk about the kids, their schedules, school stuff. We don't talk about us. Not really. I'm trying, genuinely trying, to be the person she needed me to be. I manage my own schedule now, mostly. I've got all those alarms set, a planner that's actually filling up, a weekly review session with myself on Sunday evenings. I've started cooking dinner for the kids 3 times a week. Simple stuff, but it's something. I even remembered to call my mom about her checkup last week, unprompted. Small victories, I guess, but they feel massive to me. I've learned a horrifying, humbling lesson about the invisible labor of relationships, about the mental load that one person often carries, and how easily it can be taken for granted. I learned that love isn't just about feeling affection. It's about active participation, about seeing the other person, truly seeing them, and valuing their contributions, even the ones that seem small or mundane. It's about not letting someone drown while you just float by. I was the person who caused her to drown. That's a bitter pill to swallow. This whole thing has reshaped how I think about everything. My future, our future. I don't know if Clara and I will ever get back to where we were, or if there's even a we left to salvage. A part of me, a hopeful, desperate part, still wants to try. But I know it's not up to me alone anymore. I want to build better relationships, not just with Clara, but with my kids, my parents, my friends, to be more present, more aware, less complacent. I used to think I was a good husband, a good dad, a good son. Now I know I was just coasting. And I don't want to be that person anymore. I'm grateful for the support I've gotten, even the tough love from Dave and my parents. It's hard to share this stuff, to lay out all your failings for strangers, but sometimes you just need to put it out there. Maybe someone else out there is doing the same thing I was, letting their partner carry everything, and they just haven't realized it yet. I guess the biggest question I have now, the one that keeps me up at night, is this. Even if I do everything right from now on, even if I completely transform, is it too late? Can you ever really come back from making someone feel so invisible, so utterly alone for so long? I don't know the answer. I just don't know.